Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet, read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called Zero G, written by Plucium. Brake. I mashed the pedal a few times and engaged the handbrake. No slippages. Check. Indicators? Feck. Who needs those? Steering. I spin the wheel a couple of degrees in each direction, feeling the fight from the wheels. Check. Aerofoils? I step out of the car and inspect the massive spoiler on the back of the car, tracing my calloused hand over the glossy finish. I trace the curves down the car, feeling the aerodynamic grooves designed not for speed, but to push the car down with the might of Atlas himself. My hands trace over the body to the front splitter, the counterpart to the back spoiler. The car itself was far more a simple affair. An exotic-looking McLaren with two massive indented intakes on the bonnet, while two hooded headlights were hidden inside the brilliant white body. At the bottom sits the air intake, almost sealed to the ground by a rubber skirt. The skirt runs around the outside of the small plastic skirting. The intake is connected to a jury-rigged fan in the back of the car, a pseudo-vacuum seal. If I were to peer under the skirting, I would see four massive metal discs, each adjacent to the wheel, just touching the edges of the air intake. These are electromagnetics, for when the gravity drops off, but we haven't yet picked up speed. I smile as I duck back into what has become the cockpit, the driver's seat view having been scattered with so many displays, it may as well have been ripped from a space shuttle. From my seat, I can see the brilliant white finish of the bonnet. Fecking love this car. Magnets? I flick the large red switch on the dash and it clicks forward with a satisfying clunk. A droning buzz sound fills my ears as the car is pulled down ever closer to the ground, the suspension straining against the magnetic forces. I quickly switch them off before I drain the batteries too much. Fan? I flick another switch, this one of forest green. A lower pitched sound filled my head, and the car is pulled much more gently to the ground. I smile and switch it off. Everything is functioning perfectly. I look to my left, I look to my right, smirking at the overly modified alien hunks of junk, everything hyper-specialized to its task. Due to the variations on alien vehicular locomotion, there was very little regulations on what was and what wasn't allowed. It's hardly fair to limit a species to only another species' vehicular type. Luckily, due to this leniency and humanity's recent introduction to the galactic scene, I'd been able to pull some strings and get into this race with only some minor modifications to my car. Who needs hyper-alien tech when good old gas and some horsepower will get what you want? I flick a couple of switches into position and the sound of electric motors fill the cabin. The wheel cover slides into position with a hiss and seals the wheels off from the even better aerodynamics. The spoiler automatically corrects to the optimal angle, and the lights flicker on my dash as the car's electronics boot up. Next to me, I hear a substantially louder whine as my competitors rev their engines. Fools, wait until they hear my 4-liter V8 roar. I flick my headlights in some petty display, watching the light illuminate the water vapor hanging in the air. It's quite cold here, and given we're in space, that's to be expected. A large bar lowers into position as an announcer speaks in excited tones. I don't understand him. Didn't have time to upload the full dictionary into my translator. Neon lights illuminate along the bar going from right to left, purple to orange. I put my thumb on the button and finally ignite my engine. And it roars to life. I'm practically deafened as the petty whines of my competitors' motors are drowned out by a throaty roar. I catch a couple of startled glances from the other drivers as they look at me in shock. What? Have they never heard a proper exhaust note before? Confidence reinforced by shock on the other drivers' relative faces. I smirk, patting the accelerator a couple times. I watch the needle on the interface climb. God, I love vintages, I think to myself as the engine bellows. The countdown bar is approaching half full as I run the last-minute checks. By a quarter full, I'm ready and sitting terse in my seat. Seconds tick by, and time seems to slow. I engage the magnets in the fan with seconds to spare. Moments before the bar fills, a piercing horn goes off and the bar flashes orange, and I floor it. The announcer is saying something, but I don't truly hear it. I'm pressed back in my chair as the engine comes to life. A beast made and shackled by man, finally released. Boy, does it run. Gravity drops away and my stomach drops. The sole source of reference here is the seat compressing into my back and the neon light illuminated track. The speedometer ticks up. Most of my competition overtake me in those crucial first seconds. The V8 not having the initial torque that electric motors revel in. But I'm not worried. I'll catch them. As the speedo ticks over 100, the ground falls away below me, and the magnets pull us into a sharp dive. I lift weightless in my seat as we rocket towards the bottom of the initial loop. Most of the other drivers are halfway up it already, speeds approaching 300. I'm not worried. I'll catch them. The speedo climbs at the same speed as always, not aided by gravity. We hit 200 at the uptick, and I'm slammed into my chair with the force of God. We shoot straight into the air, and the speedometer climbs higher still. I can hear the turbos screaming as more and more air is forced into it. The pressurized arena ideal for us. We're upside down now. Relativity turned its head in the absence of gravity, and the speedo ticks up. The lead isn't quite so obvious now. The electric's initial torque advantage wearing off. The ground finally levels off for all of 5 seconds before we are sent into a brutal spiral, completing a full revolution every couple of seconds. I jam my head against its rest, desperately trying to keep myself looking straight. Finally, the track levels out as the speedo reaches 300. I flick off the red switch. Aerodynamics should do its job fine anyway, and that's the last of the downwards curves. The real bad ones, at least. I'm starting to catch the others, my dual-clutch gearbox changing smoothly up through the years. The track veers violently right, the curve banking 90 degrees with it, sending us into a 180-degree turn back the way we came. The speedo ticks up. The slowest of competition are stones throw away and falling back towards me. My car begins to shake, the force being exerted on its roof substantially more than it was initially designed for in the higher atmosphere. The speedo ticks up. The engine growls as I pass the now losing contestant, a shocked look on the driver's face as his bullet-shaped vehicle falls behind me. The first place position is now within reach, and I'm in the race proper. Unfortunately, we're eating up the track at 350. Thankfully, the various mods and dubious legality keep the speedo ticking up, even at this incredible speeds. The track starts to undulate below me as we enter a wave corner. The general gist of the corner is gently banking right corner, but the brutal 3-meter-high waves keep it from being anything but simple. My confidence wavers slightly. A couple of lucky aliens activate some bullcrap proton thrusters or something and glide over the bumps, while the far majority are stuck bobbing up and down. The speedo ticks up more. I'm halfway through the main pack now, the exhaust letting off fumes that hold in place, while the engine growls in anger. How dare these fools be in front of me? Every driver I pass looks at me shocked, and the announcer screams something over and over again. The McLaren is an angry cheetah chasing down a rabbit, and we barrel on out of the corner, roaring forward on the now flattered track. We're approaching the finish now, and I've almost got it. I overtake 5th, 4th, 3rd. Despite the track being nearly over, the most brutal obstacle lays ahead still. 5 hairpin turns, end to end, with no banking. I flip the red switch in preparation, and the speedo slows its climb. I see second slow down in preparation. First, fortunately, doesn't. But nevertheless, I roar past second, exhaust fumes coating his car as a delightful note rings out. The engine reaching a ridiculous RPM, and the speedo climbs higher. It's only first between me and the finish now, and I tear through the first corner, taking it as tight as possible. There are no rails here. If you go off the track, you don't stop. That corner was easy. There's no way I could take the others at speed. Fortunately, in 0G, you don't have to. As I approach the second corner, I slam on the handbrake and send my car flying off the side of the track. I'm sent flying towards the road on the other side, bridging the gap in seconds. I slam down onto the track and don't stop. I adjust the dial on the dash, and the steering wheel clicks free, popping forward. I disengage the magnets and prepare for the edge. I overtake first, my path perpendicular to his own, as he swerves around the corners, firing thrusters to adjust. I, meanwhile, plunge off the edge and am sent plummeting down from the downforce that once aided me. I grin. I pull back on the freed steering wheel, and the spoilers tilt, leveling my drive into a controlled flight. Small fabric proto-wings unfold from the rubber skirt, and the fan kicks into overdrive. I pull up and am sent flying up through the gap between the second to last hairpin and the straight run to the finish, cresting into first's view like a whale breaching. I slam the steering wheel forward and am sent flying down onto the road. A loud crash rings out as I slam onto the road, a good 100 meters between me and first. I flick the black dial, and the steering wheel pops back into place, and the wheels unfold away. The speedo climbs higher and higher. I'm freed, and I feed nitrous into my mighty V8, burning it all in the final 2 kilometers to the finish. I can feel more than I can see myself roaring ahead of what was once first, the speed climbing to new heights. My exhaust hits its crescendo, and the speedo hits 400, 410, 420, 430. With a roar, I tear through the finishing gate, a good half a kilometer between me and what is now second. A grin on my face. I pull into a provided parking spot and step out of my vehicle. Moments later, second place pulls into the spot next to me. I waltz over and knock on the window. The alien creature reaches up and pulls down on a tab of the top, lowering the window. It looks at me with a face I interpret as incredulity. "What's the matter? Never seen Chitty Chitty Bang Bang?" With that cryptic comment, I turn away, walking off, smile firmly set on my face. End of story. I would just quickly like to thank the T5 peeps: Dragon Soup, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Red Panda 121, Leslie 517, Bushmaster 177, Caspar Arnold, Cam Maxwell, Sans the Skeleton, Light Jock, Dragzoon WRE, and Lord Azrakal. Thank you very much.